Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And I am so happy to be back from my 2-week Christmas hiatus. I am all about the gorgeous Brushed with Beauty bundle, suite, I guess, from the online exclusive release that came out in November. Now, I don't know if you're anything like me, but November I was all into Christmas cards. I was barely aware that there was a new release of products in November. I did order some things. I didn't really pay attention to what I ordered, and I certainly didn't open them until, well, really over the last couple of weeks. So one of the things that I opened up was this beautiful suite, and oh my goodness, I absolutely love it. The paper in this suite is stunning. So if the only thing you can afford from this suite is the paper, I highly recommend getting it. But I'm going to show you all the products, and we're going to make 3 projects today. I'm going to show you a few more that I had a chance to play with. And then I also have a couple of little sneak peeks from the upcoming mini catalog, which goes live a week from today. So next week, I will be live during prime time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, for my live launch party. And you're not going to want to miss it. I will talk more about that at the end, but I'm just giving you a heads up that that is coming. All right, so if you are joining me, whether you are catching me live or you are watching a replay, please let me know and say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how your holidays were. And while you are doing that, I'm going to flip to my desk and show you the products in the suite. All right, now I have to tell you, this is actually a mega suite. There are 2 bundles in this suite. One of them I did not get. Okay. I was really intentional about it because I felt like I wouldn't get enough use out of it. So I'll explain that in a minute, but let me show you the bundle that I did get to start. So this one is an image only stamp set. It's called Petals of Beauty. We've got some 2-step images here, as well as lots and lots of extra dies to layer. So we've got our open dies that cut out the stamped images, and then lots of extra dies that we can layer. And you're going to see those in use on our projects. Now, the other bundle in this suite is a sentiment bundle. It has words that I just knew I wouldn't use. The words just and because are part of that die set. And I just knew that that was not something that I would use. So I opted not to get it. So you're going to see me using all kinds of different sentiments from various other sets today with this bundle. Okay. Okay, so that is the bundle. The gorgeous DSP is really the star of the show. So pretty. Look at this pretty paper. It's got like this sort of linen texture in the background. I'm not sure how well that shows on the camera. And then these beautiful sort of watercolored florals. So look at this one. This is my favorite from the pack. And then we've got something a little bit more subtle. Love this one too. This one is bright. This reminds me of Forsythia. We're not going to see that for several months here in Southern Ontario, but I love it. And then we have just this sort of multi-floral. And then on the background, or on the backside, I should say, we have awesome patterns, more subdued patterns that layer really nicely. So we've got a Crumb Cake stripe. We've got a Petal Pink wash. We've got a Mossy Meadow wash. We've got a Calypso Coral wash. We've got, this is kind of Lost Lagoon and with a little hint of, what's that color? Pretty Peacock. And then we've got this sort of dashed pattern. So just really pretty. And you're going to see me using that paper a lot on our projects today. Oh, I just realized I didn't even pull off a clean sheet of grid paper. That's how out of practice I am after being off for 2 weeks. All right, we also have this beautiful pattern embossing folder. This is so pretty. It's a really subtle sort of quilted diamond pattern. Love this. I've used it a lot. If you like subtle patterns, this is one that you really will like. So again, pick and choose wisely. This is a really pretty folder and it works well with the DSP. And then we have these pretty embellishments. These are called, I know what they're called, hang on, pearlized faceted circles. They come in Calypso Coral, Petal Pink, and then sort of an iridescent white. Very pretty. So that is the suite. Now, as I said, there is another bundle that I did not purchase, so I'm not going to show you that one. But we got lots of other sentiments that we are going to use. So we're going to make this one first. This I posted yesterday. It is really simple because it's all about the DSP. All right. So let's get out all our bits. Now let me just see who's joined us here before we get going. I'm out of practice. Look at this. I'm not even acknowledging everyone who's here. Charlie's here and Terry, hello, welcome. I did have a great holiday. Thank you, Charlie. Hi, April, welcome. And Laura, welcome, welcome. Alexina, happy to have you. Hi, Joyce and Gail and Terry. Mia, welcome. Eleanor, welcome. Deb, welcome, welcome. Hi, Doris. Nice to see you. Hi, Judy. Oh, Heather, I'm so sorry that you had, oh no, that is rough. I'm so sorry. That's not good. It has been very icy. I've been very, very careful being out and about. It is a skating rink where we are on our court. Hi, Leetta, welcome. All right. Okay. Let's get to our project. So I'm going to start with some new products. So this is coming in the new mini. So this bundle, these dies are called Beautifully Celebrated. And it has these beautiful layering label dies along with a few others. These coordinate with the stamps that are in the stamp set. But this die set, I am really, really loving. So what I did is I took a 1 by, I don't know, 4-inch piece of Very Vanilla, and I tacked it on to a 3 by 4-inch piece of this striped DSP. I just tacked it on with a little bit of seal. And then I ran them both through together with the die to get this sort of label pattern in the middle. Okay. And that's simply because I wanted my die cut sentiment to stand out a little bit against the crumb cake background. Okay. So I've got my DSP one and then my Petal Pink. We're going to go ahead and layer those. So I'll add a bit of glue and pop that on. Just like that. Okay, so Laura, this is a new one that's coming next week. It's not available just yet. So unless you're a demonstrator, you may not have seen it yet. If you are a demonstrator and you missed it, go and check out the pre-order. It's a good one. All right, this is some new ribbon that is coming as well. This is part of a suite called Nature Walk that is coming in the new mini, but it is beautiful white and gold. It's got this beautiful sort of natural texture. So we are going to go ahead and layer that across the front of our DSP panel. So this piece is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I'm going to put just a little smidge of seal to tack my piece down. I'm putting this intentionally a little bit below center, just because I like things a little off center. And then I'm just going to add a bit of seal to the back and wrap the ends around. Okay, and hope that that's relatively straight. Okay, then we can go ahead and glue our label on. So that is going to get glued flat. Again, I'm going to use a bit of seal and just tack that on like that. And then we're going to adhere this to a crumb cake card base. So this is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. So we'll go ahead and fold that in half along the score line and add a little bit of glue to the back of our panel here. Pop it on. There we go. And I always like to flip over and burnish from the back. And that way I don't get any inky or sticky fingers on my card front. Now I'm going to add a little bit more seal. Remember how I said I had tacked my vanilla piece on? I'm going to add a little bit more just to secure it. So now we're ready to build our, oh, and you know what I did? I should have tacked that down. I tacked it for a reason. It's got to pop up. Oh, goodness, Lena. All right, there we go. We are going to add our fussy cut florals to the back of this, and then we're going to adhere it. So I'm going to add a little bit more seal to the top and bottom edges here. And then I've just fussy cut these from the DSP. So I'm going to add 1 up above and 1 down below. And then a little bit more seal on the ends. And we're going to add this little guy kind of peeking out. Now, I don't want to see too much of this because it has to fit on my card front, right? All right, now that that's in place, we can add these pretty little die cut branches. I love how delicate they are. So they're going to be peeking out around our die cut pieces. Maybe I'll have this come up like this. No, we'll leave it as it is. There's that one. We're going to add one down here. Maybe like that so we can see a little bit. There we go. And then one more over on this side. And again, I can't go too far because I don't want it to hang off the edge of my card. There we go. All right, now that is going to get popped up on the front of my card. As soon as I figure out what I do with my dimensionals. Oh, goodness me. There we go. Nice fresh sheet to start the new year. All right. So we're going to go ahead and add a couple dimensionals here. And this is going to take care of any stray seal that is kind of hanging around. We don't want it kind of getting in the way of or sticking our label down where we don't want it. So we'll get rid of our backings and pop that on. So I'm just kind of lining up. I'm more worried about lining up this side than I am the left because it's kind of hidden. So I'm just going to align that with the shape of the label, just like that. Okay. And then I have my wishing sentiment. So this is from the Delicate Wishes bundle. So I've stamped and then die cut in Crumb Cake on Crumb Cake cardstock. So we're going to go ahead and glue that to our popped up label. So it's a little bit of liquid glue on the back of this. Don't need a lot. And we're going to pop that on right about there. There we go. All right, now I have, let's just make sure that that's going to stick. We'll give it a second. Oh, hi, Suzanne from Wisconsin. While I'm waiting, I'm looking at comments here. Hi, Barb, Saskatchewan, welcome. Hi, Julie. All right, I'm glad you find it helpful, Charlie. I love playing with paper flowers, and goodness knows I'm not going to have any real ones to play with for a while. So, all right, I'm going to stamp my You a Happy Birthday in Crumb Cake ink on Petal Pink. So this little label is part of the Delightful Wishes suite, or bundle, I should say. And I'm stamping in Crumb Cake ink on my itty bitty label. And we're going to actually pop this up. So I'm going to use a couple of minis. And yes, I know I'm double popping. If you're worried about mail, you could certainly glue this flat. It doesn't have to get popped. I'm actually going to send this card to my mom. Actually, it'll go in the mail tomorrow. She is turning 83 next week. So this will be a happy little surprise for her. And then our last couple of touches is some more of this beautiful ribbon. I'm going to tie a little bow here. Now this ribbon is quite textured. So when you go to tie your bow, you have to work a little bit to get your loops the size you want. So my advice is start with your loops quite small. Okay, so I've kind of pulled them fairly small to start and then work your loops out to form your bow. Otherwise you'll end up with a really big bow. And once you've pulled it tight, it is much harder to adjust the size of the loops because the texture in this ribbon grabs and it's harder to adjust. Okay, that's just what I've kind of discovered from playing with this ribbon. All right, we're going to add a little bit of glue there. We're going to grab a glue dot. There we go. Oh, I will pass along your birthday wishes, everyone. And I feel like these antique pearls just work really, really nicely with this color palette. So I actually use these instead of the gems that come with the suite. You'll see them later, but I feel like these just work really, really well. This sort of muted flat pearl. It's kind of got a vintagey vibe. So I'm going to add a few of them. And that is that. Okay, so that is number one, quick and easy. I always like to start with an easy one. Ease us into things. And we will move on to number 2. All right, so number 2 has some stamping and a little bit of watercoloring. So I'm going to show you what I did. I posted this earlier today, and before I get into it, I have to show you this paper. This again is another release that came out in November, totally like I ordered it and then forgot about it. This is the Whispers of Texture specialty paper. And it is so much fun to play with. So there are 2 different patterns. You're not going to be able to see them until I hold them up close to the camera. Let me get them up nice and close. So there is a really subtle stripe, almost like corrugated, like a mini corrugation. And then there is this sort of canvas texture. And they are so fun to play with. Now, the stripe does not stamp on as well. It's great for blending ink on and getting really cool texture. But the sort of canvas textured one is fantastic for stamping on. So let me show you what I did here. All right, so I have my flowers. So these are 2-step stamps. So I stamped the first, the more solid layer in Petal Pink, and then the texture layer in Calypso Coral. Okay, and then I came in with a blender pen, and I blended them out. So you can see the difference here. Can you see the difference between this one and this one? Can you see that this is much softer? It looks a little bit more watercolored. Okay, and then on this one, you can really see it. You can see on this side where it's blended and this side where it's not. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really simple. On this one, I didn't want to see the white border around my stamped image. So I pulled in my blender pen and my Calypso Coral ink pad. And I just want to make sure I'm using the right end of this. There we go. And I'm just going to grab just a smidge of ink from the edge of my pad. And what I'm going to be able to do then is fill in that white border. You know, when we die cut, we get a bit of a white border. Sometimes it's great. On this look, I didn't really want it. So I'm going to make it disappear. So I'm just picking up that Calypso Coral and I'm blending it with the stamped image and kind of pulling it down. And it does take a little bit for this to really blend. You're not going to see a big difference until it kind of has time to dry. I did these earlier this afternoon as I was preparing for my live here, and they blended it really, really nicely. But that allows me to get rid of that white border. Okay, and again, you're not going to see it really well until this has had a chance to kind of really dig in and dry. Okay, so that's that one. This one, same kind of thing. I did leave the white borders on this one, but I did come in with my blender pen and just soften down that ink. And what I find is it makes it look more watercolored, but it also makes the ink a little bit more vibrant. So I'm just coming in and blending that out all the way around. Okay, see if we can get that to blend there. All right, so there's the one that I did earlier. You can see a big difference, right? Okay, then we are I'm going to show you how I blended out my leaves, because the leaves you really, really see a difference on. So I stamped my leaves in Old Olive. So this is what it looked like before I blended it. Okay, and this is what it looked like after. Big difference, right? Okay, so I'm going to come in with some Mossy Meadow ink. So I'm going to start by first blending this out a little bit. So I'm coming in with my blender pen and I'm blending. Look at the difference it makes just using the blender pen. Do you see the difference, how that pulls the ink in? It adds really, just makes the ink much more vibrant. And then I'm going to come in with my Mossy Meadow and I'm going to add shadow to my leaf. And you can see how that just really makes that come to life. What a difference, eh? All right, so let's do the other side. I've still got some Mossy Meadow on my brush here. So we'll start by blending this out first. And then again. Now, when you're picking up ink from your pad, just touch it to the corner of your pad. You don't want to kind of run it right across the middle. because you don't want to have a stripe on your pad. You could just put squeeze a drop or two of re-inker as well. I just find with re-inker, I tend to get too much ink, like more than I want. So this I find is a happy medium. Another thing that a lot of people do is squeeze the lid of your pad. I don't know if I've done it. If you squish the lid of your ink pad, let me just do that. You can pick your ink up from there as well. Both work quite nicely. So you can add as much or as little of the darker shade as you want to get that all blended out. All right, let's do this last leaf. So again, I'm first blending just the stamped Old Olive ink, and then I'm coming in with the Mossy Meadow. And again, it just adds that extra depth and shading. So much better, right? All right. Now, before we put this together, we do need to stamp the centers of our flowers. So this little stamp is part of the stamp set. And I am stamping in Darling Duckling. And I'm just going to kind of stamp in the center of each flower. And it's going to blend a little bit with whatever shades are in the flower. That's fine. It's meant to look a little bit watercolory. Okay. All right. Oh, everybody's realizing I'm live. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. All right, now let's talk about this. So another part of this suite is vellum. We finally have vellum cardstock back. Now this, I'm not going to call this cardstock. This is slightly lighter weight than the vellum that we used to carry in the 8.5 by 11. This comes in 12 by 12 sheets, but it is long awaited to finally have this back. So this is just plain old white vellum. But what I did is I took and colored it with my dark Mossy Meadow Stampin' Blends because I wanted a rich dark green that was a little bit translucent. So to get this rich green, you have to color the front and the back. Okay. And it dries really quickly because it's alcohol, right? Alcohol ink. So it dries really fast when you do that. Okay. Now we're ready to put this together. So to start, I have a 4 by 5.25 inch piece of this beautiful Brushed with Beauty DSP, and I've embossed it using the beautiful pattern embossing folder. Isn't that pretty? Look how lovely that is. So pretty. All right, so I have a 2 by 4 inch strip of the striped Crumb Cake and Vanilla pattern, and that's going to get glued on towards the bottom, but 3/4, no, about an inch up from the bottom. So we'll go ahead and add a little glue here and pop that on. Try and do it without getting glue all over my fingers. There we go. I feel like that's too high. I'm going to say 3/4 inch. I think I like that better. One was a little too high. All right, so there is our first layer. And then I have an arch cut with the Everyday Arches dies. Again, from that beautiful floral. Can you tell it's my favorite? I've used it on 2 cards already. We're going to pop that up, a couple of dimensionals. So we'll just grab a few of these. And get rid of our backings here. And then that is going to go on right about there. Hopefully relatively centered and straight. All right, now this is going to get glued onto a Crumb Cake card base. This is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4.25. Yes, that specialty paper is available. It actually came out in November, so it is available to order now. I haven't checked to see if it is on low inventory or if it is out of stock, but it is currently available. So definitely add it to your cart the next time you are placing an order. All right, let's pop this on to our card base here. And then we're going to do some more floral arranging because that seems to be my jam right these days. All right, so I have I'm going to basically stick everything to the back of my large flower here. All right, so I'm going to add some seal all over the back of my large flower, and we're going to build our arrangement this way. So I'm going to start by adding one of our sets of 3 leaves. I'm going to add a little bit more seal, and we're going to add another flower. Let's do it this way. And then we're going to add some of these leaves. Now, these ones I like to cut apart. So I'm going to just kind of trim this here, and then I'm going to follow the shape of the leaf so that I get a full leaf here. Okay, and just clean that up so it's nicely rounded. Same thing down here. And then I get 2 for the price of 1, or 2 for the effort of 1. Let's put it that way. All right, so this one is going to kind of come up behind like this. And then these little guys are going to kind of tuck in. I think I'm going to just cut. I'm only going to use 2. These little guys are going to kind of come in here like that. Add a little bit more seal and tuck them in like that. And then this guy is going to kind of tuck in behind. So I'm going to add a little bit more seal to the back of my flower here. And then it's just going to kind of tuck in here like that. Yes, I like that. And then I have this sort of branch, which is like, again, part of the dies. That is going to kind of be coming up the top. So I'm going to trim this off. So thrill, fill, and spill, right? If you have done any kind of floral arranging or planted pots for your deck out in the summertime, that's kind of the motto. Thrill, fill, and spill. You want a little of everything. I'm going to trim this little leaf off because I want it to peek out the side a little bit. All right, so what was I doing? This guy's going to come up here. And then this one is going to peek out here just a bit like that. And then finally, we've got our last set of 3 leaves. That's going to kind of come out. I think we're just going to actually see 2. We're going to glue one of the leaves to the back of our flowers here. I only want to see 2. 5 leaves is plenty. Okay, so there we go. That's all there is to it. And then that whole thing is going to get popped up on the front of our card. So it's really just a matter of sticking stuff and playing and arranging. And once you have something you like, glue it all down. It's I love playing with paper flowers. I love playing with real flowers too. But it's something that you can really just kind of make your own. All right, so now I want to make sure, now I'm looking at this and I don't like the way that's sitting. So we are going to tilt this a little bit that way. That's better. So that's going on like that. Okay, and then I have a little label. This is from the Textured Notes dies. And I have my many thanks sentiment. This is from one of the fall sets. I can't remember the name of it right now. It'll come to me, or somebody can tell me. It's the one that had the big leaves die cuts. It was an online exclusive. Can't remember the name. So I've just stamped my sentiment in Crumb Cake ink, and then I'm going to take my linen thread and make a little bow. Hi, Lauren. Welcome. Glad you could join us. All right. So we'll just make our bow. I want it to be pretty big and loopy because I want to see it. It's going to peek out from behind my label here. So I'm just going to take a glue dot, press it on that bottom right corner of the back of my label. And then we're going to just kind of stick that just like that. Okay, and then that is going to lay across my arrangement. I'm going to put a dimensional right at the end. Actually, I'm going to put it here just to make sure it doesn't bump over anything. And we'll pop that on. Just like that, hopefully relatively straight. There we go, like that. And then this time we are going to use some of our pretty gems as soon as I figure out where I toss them. So we're going to use, I think, the pink. There's my take your pick. So let's put one there and one, put one up here. Oops, there's a stray bit of, whoops, come here, you. There we go. And what am I looking for? 1, 2, we'll do one of these guys again. The little guy down here. There we go. Number 2. You like that one? All right. Number 3. This is a fun fold. You knew I had to. So let me get all my stuff out of the way. Okay, so this is a fun fold that's been around for quite a while. It folds, it's kind of like a gate fold, but then you open it and it stands up like this. Kind of like an easel almost. Okay, so it stands like that. And it really does show the beautiful DSP. I used 3 different patterns of the DSP on this one. So let me show you how to make this. Now, this card I actually made from 12 by 12 cardstock. So this is an 11 3/4 by 4 1/4 inch piece that is scored at 4 1/4 and 9 3/4. But I'm going to show you how to do it with 8.5 by 11 cardstock, because not everybody, I know not everybody has 12 by 12. Okay. All right. So let me show you how to build this base using 8.5 by 11. Get all my bits out here. I don't know. Oh, I know what that's for. Okay. So I have a 4 1/4 by 9 3/4 inch piece of Crumb Cake cardstock, and it is scored, I should put it this way, at 4 1/4. Okay. So that's my first piece. So 4 1/4 by 9 3/4 scored at 4 1/4. Okay. And then I have a second piece that is 2.5 by 4 1/4. Okay. Now I'm going to start by folding this larger piece. I'm going to fold that flap inwards, and that's going to form this portion of our card. Okay. This piece is going to form this top flap. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first fold along that score line. And then I'm going to come in with my scissors and I'm going to bevel this little tab. So I'm going to just cut it at an angle right up to the score line there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this to the inside of the large panel. Okay. So this is going to get glued like this. I'm actually going to flip it over. It's easier to do this way. It's going to get glued just like that. Okay. This little tab that is going to get covered. Nobody's going to see it, and no one will ever know that we use 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to put some glue on my little tab here. And then I'm going to take this is the larger panel. Okay. And I'm going to glue that to my little beveled tab there. And I'm going right up to the fold. Give that a really good burnish. And there's our card base. Okay. So you don't have to have 12 by 12 cardstock to make this. Now we want to hide this, right? So we're going to hide it with a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 piece of the beautiful DSP. So that is going to get glued there, and you're not going to see that little tab at all. So let's go ahead and stick that on. And then I will open them side by side, and you'll be able to see that it is essentially impossible to tell that there's a tab there. So we'll burnish that. Okay. Can you see the difference? There is essentially no difference. Okay. So now you can do this card even if you don't have 12 by 12. All right. Okay. We're going to add another piece of the same pattern. So this is 4 1/8 square. We're going to add that to the front flap here. So I'm just going to open this up for a moment. And we'll add that to our front flap. You just want to pay attention to the direction. This is directional DSP, right? So we want to make sure our vines are going all upwards rather than downwards or sideways. Okay. And then on this front flap, we're going to add a piece of the striped pattern. So this is 1 7/8 by 4 1/8. So that's going to get glued to the front. So we'll pop that on just like that. There we go. Okay, you can see how that's starting to come together. Now on the inside, we are going to add a vanilla panel, and then we're going to create our stopper for our easel so that that stands up. So let's glue our vanilla panel on first. Again, this is 4 1/8 square. So we're going to pop this on. Just like that. And then I have a 1 by 4 1/4 inch strip of Crumb Cake cardstock, as well as a, where's my little strippy gone? Okay, I know I cut one. Where'd it go? There it is. I can put it in the bag. A 7/8 by 4 1/8 piece of the striped cardstock, or DSP. So again, let's add that. Okay, and then that is going to get popped up about 1/4 inch up from the bottom. That is going to catch our little easel stand. So we're going to pop this on. Like I said, maybe I don't know, 3/8 of an inch up from the bottom. Whoops, that's not. You want to align this flush with the edge of the card, not with the edge of the vanilla, because it is 4 1/4 inches. Okay. All right. So that is essentially our foundation. Now we need to do our sort of focal image here. So this is a 2 by 5 1/4 inch piece of Crumb Cake cardstock. And then I have a 1 7/8 by 5 1/8 piece of this beautiful DSP. So we're going to go ahead and glue that. Pop that on. Just like that. Now we're going to build on this piece before we add it to the card, and you'll see why in a minute. All right, I've got all kinds of little bits here. So I've done some heat embossing ahead of time. We've got, again, this is the smallest label from that same set of dies. What are they called? They're right here. Beautifully celebrated. So smallest and second smallest. So this is embossed in gold on Very Vanilla, and then this is Mossy Meadow. And then I have several flowers that I've cut from Very Vanilla cardstock. So there's a solid flower image that cuts out the stamped image, the same one we used on this card. And then there is sort of a detailed flower. Now, these are not intended to layer perfectly. Okay, they actually are intended to be kind of wonky or look like they're sort of haphazard. So there's not really a wrong way to glue these on. Okay, so I'm going to start by gluing or by stamping the centers of my detailed die cut flowers just with some early espresso cardstock just to match the DSP. So we need 4. Did I cut 4? Oh, there's my 4th one. There we go. So we'll go ahead and stamp those. And then we'll assemble our flowers. And these are really easy to assemble. You do not need to use adhesive sheets. You do not need to glue the whole flower. You really only need to glue the center. So you can put these on, as I said, really any way you like. I just kind of center them and stick it down. Like there's not really a wrong way to do this. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the center and stick this on just like that. There's one. And let's put the glue on all of them while we have it. That will speed things up a little. There we go. And then we just kind of slap these on any which way. There's not really a wrong way, as I said. 1, 2, come here, you. 3, whoopsie, stay put. And 4. All right, that's all there is to that. Now we're going to build our arrangement again. So I'm going to start by popping up my embossed sentiment. I'm just going to put a couple of dimensionals in the middle because I'm going to want to tuck some things in behind, and I don't want my dimensionals to be in the way. So we're going to just stick that on. And then I'm going to take one of my flowers and tuck it in and just glue it sort of behind. Oopsie, come here, Seal. Just kind of stick it behind the vanilla label there, so it's kind of peeking out. Okay. I'm going to add a second flower kind of coming up this way. So again, a little bit of seal, I'm being a little bit more sparing with my seal here because I'm going to be gluing this onto a narrow panel and I don't want to have a whole bunch of glue hanging out and kind of getting in my way. My third flower is going to be coming kind of towards the bottom this way. So again, we'll just add a little bit of glue. Okay. And then I've got several of these pretty little sort of delicate leaves. These ones I'm going to add with glue dots. Again, just because I don't want to have a whole bunch of seal kind of hanging out where it might interfere with my card opening and closing. So I'm just going to take, I'm putting a glue dot on the front side of each of these little fronds and adhering them to the back of my arrangement here. I'm going to add one down here, I think. Oh, you think she'd like the last one? You might be right, Joyce. Maybe I should send her the last one. What do you girls think? Should I send her the fun fold or the first one? You can give me your opinion. Now, these little sprigs are actually from the same die set as these labels. They're not part of the Petals of Beauty bundle. They are part of this label die set. So I cut them from gold foil. So I'm going to add, again, just a little bit. I'm going to just grab a glue dot here. Because once again, I don't want to have a whole bunch of glue where it's going to be a problem. So I'm adding some up there. And then some more down here. That kind of coming out the side there. Oh, come on, stick. Put my glue dot on the wrong side. There we go. Okay, now the last touch is to add some of this ribbon. So I took this gold and white ribbon and I cut, I don't know, 18 inches in length, and then I cut it lengthwise in half to get a narrower ribbon. So we're going to kind of make what looks like a bow, but it's really just a bunch of loops. So I'm putting my seal on here. Now I know this is going to get covered when I put this on, so I'm not too worried about, you know, rogue seal. But I'm going to just go ahead and add a little piece. And then I'm going to make a loop. So I'm using just little pieces here. I'm not trying to make one continuous set of loops. And by doing so, I don't need to use quite as much glue. Another one. And then this one I might just leave as a tail. No, we'll trim it. One more little bit of glue here. Oops, you stay put. Oh my goodness. Doesn't want to stick. Wants to stick to my finger. So I put some seal there. All right, there we go. And then another little bit of a tail. Okay, let's flip that over and have a look. That's not bad. I kind of want them more towards the bottom. So we're going to just adjust this over a little bit. Back looks ugly. The front will be pretty, I promise. There we go. We got some fuzzies from cutting the ribbon in half. So it's just really a matter of pulling those off and trimming. Except my scissors are really dull, so we'll use our good scissors. There we go. Come here, you. Okay, that's better. And then we're going to add some up top as well. So a little bit, a little tail, and then a loop. And another little tail. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to trim these little tails at an angle to make them look pretty. Oopsie. There we go. There we go. Looks like a little corsage. All right, now that we are going to glue to this panel. So what I'm going to do is flip this over and keep in mind where I want this to go. Okay, so I'm going to put my dimensionals and only make sure the dimensionals are going where there is panel behind it, because I don't want to have dimensionals kind of hanging out behind the panel, which is going to interfere with my card opening and closing. Get the idea? I might put one right on that little sprig there. All right, we'll get rid of our backings. And then pop this on. You can put it high, low. I'm going to do it fairly centered. Like that. Maybe a little loop. There we go. And then that is going to get here to the front of our card. Now, we want to make sure we're only putting glue on this top portion. So I'm going to flip this over to get an idea of where I want it to go. And then I'm going to come in with my liquid glue and only put glue on the part that is going to overlap that top flap. And then I can stick this on safely. Whoops, that's got to come over quite a ways, or we're going to have sprigs getting squished in our envelope. There we go. A little bit more. There we go. Well, I'm over that far. I may as well center it, right? There we go. Now it's centered. All right, now this is going to open like this, and I decided I needed a little decoration down there. So we're going to just take and add a little flower with a sprig onto our little panel here. So we'll just kind of pop that on like that, and our card is going to stand like that. Okay. Our last touch, again, is some of our antique pearls. So we'll add a couple of those before we call it done. There we go. Done. Officially done. All right. You like that one? All right. Let me clear some of my fuzzies here and bring back all of our cards from today. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And then I have a few more to share with you because I just had so much fun with this beautiful suite. So here's a simple one, again, made using those same flower dies. And again, I colored my vellum. And this here, I made a little fringe with this ribbon. So I, again, cut it and then pulled the threads to create a little fringe there at the bottom. And then have you guys seen this fold? This is, I don't know what it's called. To me, I'm going to call it a cinch fold or a cinched card front. I don't know. That's what it looks like. It looks so complicated and like all kinds of crazy scoring. There is no scoring involved. It is the easiest card ever. So here's one. And then I did one horizontally as well. It looks like a little bow tie or something in the middle. And then I wanted to show you that it doesn't all have to be muted colors with this. So this is just stamping, no die cutting allowed on this card. So bright, fun, bold, tropical colors for those of us that are stuck in the doldrums of winter. A little bit of brightness to brighten your day. There you go. Do you like those? All right, let's see what the consensus is. Okay, you all think I should send, oh, Deb says I should send the first one. Okay. All right. Yes, I agree. April, the everyday arches and stylish shapes they are staples. I pull them out all the time. And I think these dies are going to become that as well, these label dies. All right, let me come back and say a fond farewell. Just a reminder, next week, I will be live during prime time, 7 p.m. Eastern time for my live launch party. Next Tuesday is launch day for the new mini catalog. It's also the launch for the January product of the month. And new kits and all kinds of things. Oh, and bonus days are coming. So more on that next week. So in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful, happy New Year's Eve, happy New Year's Day, all the best in 2026. And I will see you next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time for my live launch party. Bye for now, everyone.